We're here today with Ron Butler, friend of mine, also a fellow employee here at the Frazier. But he also has a part here in our Kentucky Rivalries exhibit. He won state championships in high school basketball at Louisville Male in 1970 and 1971. And so, this is around the time of the Sweet 16, so I just wanted to ask you a few questions. First, I just wanted you to share with us a story of how you almost went to Manual High School instead of Male High School, the arch rival.
Well, I did attend Manual.
Okay.
Junior high.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, a family lived about 2 blocks from Manual. Mm-hmm. And I went there and I played junior high basketball. It was something about Manual though. I think my story went like this. I met this girl and she was just too crazy for me. Mm-hmm. So I just had to get away. Mm-hmm. So when they passed out slips what school you want to attend, I signed up for Central.
Oh, okay.
But then I changed my mind, I put Male down.
Oh.
And that caused a lot of riffle.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I looked around, there was several guys that played for Manual. Mm-hmm. On their junior high team. Well, they signed up for Male too.
Oh, okay.
So it was about 4, maybe 5 guys, that signed up and ended up going to Male. Thing about Male is, play sports there, you had to learn how to play. Mm-hmm. Because guys were good.
Who would you play with?
At that time, at Manual.
Oh, at Male, I'm sorry.
At Male,
mm-hmm.
G.G. Gordon. Mm-hmm. A lot of people thought like me and him was brothers. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, we caused a coach to do a forfeit.
Okay, how'd that happen?
Well, it was back in the days they called it AAU, mm-hmm. and I think it was we played for Market Street Neighborhood House, and I think it was Baxter, with a head coach for that team. Mm-hmm. He seen G play. He knew G, but apparently I think what happened was when you lived in the projects, they had beach areas. They had like 3 courts. They had a main court, then they had a court for little kids, mm-hmm. They had courts for guys that wasn't really all that good. They could play. Because mm-hmm. You went to the big court where they had lights on it all night.
Oh, okay.
So your competition was right there.
All right.
So, and I guess he was looking out the window. And when we didn't play for him, we ended up playing for Market Street Neighborhood House. And so when it was time for us to warm up and everything, he seen both of us on the same team. Well, we wasn't playing against him. Mm-hmm. We was playing somebody else. And he called a forfeit. He said, I want a forfeit. They said, well, how can you forfeit? You're not playing this team. He said, I'm not playing against them 2 guys right there. He said, one of them too old. I don't know which one. They said, which one? He said, I don't know which one, but one of them too old, and I'm not playing against him. I'm calling a forfeit. So, well, you can't call a forfeit. You're not playing against him. So he raised so much hell. So they called me and G and went to the side. They said, well, you make a decision which one is older. And I think he pointed G out. So they didn't let G play, but let me play. And so, I think I scored I didn't know how many points I scored. I think Coach came back up. Paul Humphrey, that was his name. He said, you know how many points you get? I said, no. He said, man, you pretty much set a record, And it didn't faze me,
mm-hmm.
Just
mm-hmm.
come out to play.
Right.
Right. And that's the way it was back in those days. You had to prove yourself that you had to play. Mm-hmm. Even on the 70 team, I looked over and I seen 14 names, but really it should have been like 19, maybe 20 names.
Oh, that many players dressed?
Yeah, but the thing of it was, 5 of them quit. Mm-hmm. We was down in Paducah tournament, invitational, and one of the guys that played football, the quarterback that played football, he was wanting to get more playing time. So he went down the bench and he asked everybody, he said, you want more playing time? And of course everybody's gonna say yeah. So he said, well, I'm gonna go in and talk to Coach Hutter. I'm gonna get everybody some playing time. So he went in there, and Coach Hutter met with everybody except for the first string, the first 6, and he met with everybody. I was the last one. So he went in, I think Charles Duncan went in before me. I was the last one. So Readers came out. He said, I quit. He looked up and said, Butler, you better quit too. Charles, you better quit too. Charles said, man, I ain't thinking about you. Charles went on in. So I walked in. I was the last one. So Coach Hutter said, well, Ronnie, said, I understand you want more playing time. I said, who don't? He said, but it's like this. I ain't got number one basketball, 5 people. Can't play everybody. I was going like, it's bad with me. Because I would rather come off the bench anyway than start. And I think he kind of knew that. And I think when we won that championship, it was funny that night because somebody put the net around my neck, and all of a sudden I felt his arm come up between my armpits there and grabbed me like this. And he reached over in my ear and he says, ain't you glad you didn't quit?
Right.
And I started laughing, he started laughing, I said, man, I didn't think about quitting. I didn't think about quitting.
What was the boys' Sweet 16 like in 1970? Did you play at Freedom Hall?
At Freedom Hall.
And do you recall any games that year that was during that tournament that was significant besides the championship game?
Well, the thing about, like I said, we played for Male, I think I mentioned to you once before, is that everybody was a rival.
This is before Trinity and St. X
Right.
kind of became like sort of ascended in football.
Right.
Male was the school at that time.
Right. Everybody was a rival. Everybody just wanted to beat Male. It wasn't like, every game was almost like, you figure Male and Manual was the top, but when you played Trinity, St. X, Flagey, back then I think it was Bishop David Nels, DeSales, everybody you played against was a rivalry. They won't give you nothing easy.
It's like John Calipari saying, like, Kentucky's everybody's Super Bowl in college basketball. You're everybody's Super Bowl in high school basketball.
And the thing about Male is that the 70 team, even the basketball, football, because I played basketball, football, and ran track. And the thing about that year was Male should have been undefeated in football.
I heard about what happened between Male and Trinity that year.
Well, it was between Male and Trinity, and it started with Central. It was 2 controversial calls. Because a lot of times, like I mentioned to you before, you gotta play. When you at Male, you had to play through the name calling, the trash talking, and you had to play against the referees. Because you figured at 1970 game, Male and Trinity both teams were like 7-1, something like that. But the thing of it is, the Central game, we had 2 controversial calls, we had 2 touchdowns called back. But then we played Trinity. Well, the score was 3-0 until the last quarter. And I think Clarence Shoulders caught the ball. He fell down. But the ball never touched the ground. It was in his hand. He was in bounds. The referee was standing right there looking down on top of him. He signaled touchdown. But the side judge came 40 yards down the field and overruled him. And then when the game was over with, that game it caused a riot. Both stands empty, both benches empty. It caused a riot.
Oh, wow.
But what we went back the next day and looked at the film, and you could see, the referee overruling. The referee was standing right there by him, looking down on top of him when he fell, and you could see it. But they said the ruling had already been made, the game was played, so there's nothing they could do about it. So,
And you're a really important part of that 70 team for Male football. I mean, you had a SNS game where you ran a punt return for a touchdown. You had a fumble recovery or a pick 6 for a touchdown. And then you had a reception as well for a touchdown.
Yeah, I scored everywhere you could score except for kickoff.
Right.
But the thing back then is you had to play both ways. You had to play offense and defense. Where nowadays, they got the defense team, offensive team, and we had that at one year. And then when I forget that coach's name, when he left, he took a job at Moorhead State, and they went back going both ways because they didn't have enough people, enough kids, you know. So
You mentioned about some of the tension during that game with Trinity and Male and football. Was there tensions like between the city and the county schools around the area during that time?
well, back then, you see, you had the city schools played city schools, and the county schools played the county school. Because back then, you had two things going. You had all city, you had all state. They don't have all city no more. They just have all state.
Okay.
You know, I mean, the game on both ends has changed drastic. You know, today in basketball, you know, they got camps. Adidas got a camp, Nike got a camp. Everybody got a camp where you can go show off, or you can go and learn how to better your dribble. Big men's got schools now where they can go and learn how to pivot their foot, you know, score. They teach more back then. They teach more today how to use your left hand more than your right. Back then, they wanted you to use your left hand. You know, it was up to you to learn how to use your left hand.
How'd you learn that?
You had to work on it.
Just out on your own time?
Well, they had different drills that, you know, coach would say, you know, left hand, right hand, right hand, you know. But today, you know, they practice it now. You know, they got camps and they got teachers that teach. You know, people don't realize, like in pros, they got what they call shooting coaches. They teach you direct technique to shoot, but it's up to you to get it down. They'll help you work with it. Because I heard several guys that, I think a guy played with Emmanuel Philibon when he went to Houston. See, he had a funny looking shot. But when he got there and they showed him the best technique, he said, man, I couldn't believe it. You know, so they got shooting coaches there to help you learn how to shoot the right way. You know, the only thing about the game back then is we didn't have a 3-point line. See, you couldn't dunk.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you couldn't dunk.
So that rule was in place in high school too.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And see, the thing of it is, a lot of times we came out and we warmed up. We went, say, out of town somewhere, we warmed up. Well, whoever can dunk wanted to dunk, can dunk. You can dunk as long as the referees can see it. If the referee saw it, then it was a technical foul.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's just warming up. But during the game, no dunking. Wasn't no 3-point shot.
How did players adjust to those limitations back in the day?
You just played. You know, you just played. You know, I mean, the 3-point line has changed about the game of basketball. Everybody now wants to score because they figure that the more points you score, they figure you can get to the pros. But the thing of it is that I tell kids all the time is anybody can score, but can you stop them from scoring? I said, you can put a basketball in a 65-year-old grandmother's hand. Eventually, she's gonna score. Can you stop her from scoring? You know? And back then, you know, we pretty much took pride in our defense. You know, sometimes, you know, you see them kids do trash talking and yelling. That's all that's unnecessary. You know what I mean? You could do it the right way. Because a lot of times what I would tell guys is I would whisper in their ear, get the ball up, you ain't getting it back. And that's the way I played. And guys hate to play against me. They would tell you, because I remember we won the 70 championship. I was walking past, they was interviewing Harold Snow, because he was the point guard at the time. And one of the reporters asked me, said, how'd you like playing against, call this guy's name out. He said, oh man, he wasn't playing against him, wasn't nothing. He said, I had to play against Butler every day. You know,
practice.
Right. And I would tell him, get the ball up, you ain't getting it back. And he hated me. I mean, he would elbow, push, shove. I said, okay, you won't play that way? I'm gonna wear you like a pair of underwear. I'll be on your backside.
Well, speaking of, that's a great story. Can you tell me a story of the one time you and G switched uniforms?
It wasn't me and G.
It wasn't you and G, okay.
It was in football. What happened, I had got hurt, and we was playing against Trinity. And I can't think his name. But anyway, they switched uniforms, made it look like I was out there playing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I was on the sideline.
I got you.
I was on the sideline.
He was playing decoy.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I was on sideline.
How difficult was it to repeat in '71 as state champions in high school basketball? Was it more pressure or was it less? I mean, what was your role in that team? So getting back to Sweet 16.
Like I said once before, you had to play, and everybody male played was like a rivalry, so it didn't make no difference. I mean, the pressure was on, but you know, them guys went out there and just played. You know, I mean, here's the thing about basketball: you look at your starting five. A lot of times, you got more guys that's got better talent on the bench just after playing. And sometimes coaches got their favorite picks, who they want to play, who they are told to play, you know. So you just have to learn, like I said, you learn how to play, coming off the bench. You know, you knew when you went in that, hey, you're going in for that person. You know what his role is. Hey, fit in with everybody. You know?
Who were some of the players on that '71 team who you thought could have started but played reserves?
Man, that whole second string. I'm serious. I'll tell you this. It was a college school out west. He told Coach Hudd, he said, look, I'll take your whole team, give them scholarships, even your ball boys.
even the student manager.
He said, I'll take it all. You know.
That's impressive.
Yeah. But I mean, when you look at that team, you had about 5, maybe 6 guys went pro.
Do you remember like some of them?
Yeah, Lawrence played a little pro ball. Bill played a little pro ball.
Bill Button.
G played ball, pro ball. Childers played pro ball. And then when you went to '71, Wesley Clarks, he played for the Golden State. You know, G started for Atlanta. You know, the only thing is, the higher you go, the farther you go, the harder it gets. You know, and sometimes being young, you can't take that pressure. See, because I think G ended up having I heard he had like a heart attack or stroke or something like that. Something happened to him physical, you know. But he played I think it was about 5 years down there in Atlanta. He was averaging about 12 points a game, 15 points a game. But I think the pressure got to him, you know. As a matter of fact, he still plays today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
60 and over, I think it is. You know.
I know that you played a little ball in college, but then after that you hung up with Trumps for a while, for about 10 years or so, and then you got back into it.
Yeah, I did for about 7 years. You know, once I got hurt, it was like a career ending. You know, then you realize one thing: you ain't the same player you was. And you see guys out there now playing hurt. You know, and you can tell they don't have it. You know, to me, they out there fooling themselves. You know, but I took in for 7 years, I think it was. I didn't touch no ball or nothing, and then I ended up working in a factory. And,
is that Philip Morris?
Right. And then one of the guys came and he said, "We're gonna try to put a team together. You wanna play?" Nah.
You were like Shane in the movie Shane. You were like gunfire. Like, nah, man, I'm done with that life.
No.
But they kept on pulling you in.
And this is what I say about trash talk, because when you trash talk, you got to learn how to do one thing, back it up. And what happened was the second shift wanted to play the first shift in basketball. And this one guy was talking so much trash. This one guy said, "Look, man, you can't beat me."
He was talking to you?
No, he was talking to the other guy.
Oh, okay.
His name was Mario. And Stretch was his name. He was talking so much trash. So Mario said, "Look, tell you what." He said, "You get 5 guys on your shift, and I get 5 guys on my shift. Or you get 6 or whatever you want to get, and we'll rent a gym and play." So Mario, he's about 5'7". He said, "But I'll tell you what I'm gonna do." He said, "But if I ever catch you in the open, I'm gonna dunk on you." You know, everybody was laughing, right? But guess what? He called him in the open, and he dunked on him.
He dunked on him. Okay.
Right. And he had to chew leather from that point on.
Right.
Because he realized one thing, he couldn't play. You know, he couldn't play, you know. And that's how I got started back. We had a good team. Then he talked me into playing for the corporate team. And and it turned out all right. Because I think me and Charles Duncan, we was on the same team at Mayo, and we was on the same team at Philip Morris, you know. And we ended up winning the corporate ship at Philip Morris too.
Were there any other stars from Kentucky High School basketball that you played against in the corporate leagues?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because
in the corporate, you had a lot of guys that were from the college, pros, you know, that was playing for like GE, International Harvest at that time, you know, and so it was pretty good competition, you know. Matter of fact, I don't know if you remember Rex Bailey played for Western when they went to championship, and I think they beat Kentucky that year. Well, he was on the same team with us too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Rex was on the same team with us. So we had a pretty good team. It was lined out. The only thing is, what messed the team up with, you had a player coach. You know. So he seen us winning, so he decided to one thing, start playing himself more.
That ruined the chemistry.
No, yeah, it did ruin the chemistry. You know, because he should be out there playing. You know, he getting himself more playing time. You know, and everybody was going like. But we pulled it through though. So I think it was the first time. I think the first shift at Philip Morris had won a corporate title. You know, and then I think after that it kind of like dismantled a little bit. You know.
If you were to give a young man who's wants to, you know, play well in high school and then go to the next level, what would be your best advice to them to get you know, to get good, I should say?
Learn all you can while you can.
Okay.
You never know when you're gonna need it.
Right.
You know, I mean, because like I said, the game has changed, and with these new techniques they got out for training and teaching you different moves. You know, because I watched the interview with Bill Russell. You see guys going up and block people shot out of bounds. They think they done something. Take a lesson out of Bill Russell. Bill Russell did one thing. He learned when he never blocked a shot pretty much out of bounds. He just used his fingers and did like his twisted, put spin on it. Then he would go up and grab it.
And they'd be able to kick it out to the guard and
Right,
cutting.
right.
Yeah.
See, Henry Husky was another one. He was like that. You know, he get the ball out of bounds. He was left-handed, and him and G had this thing snowbird.
He played for Mayo.
Yeah, right. He hit him like a pass. You know, and that was a play within itself. But they worked out. You know, teams tried to stop it, but they couldn't stop it. You know, because they had worked on it. But now you have to learn all you can. That's with anything. That's with sports, with your schooling, on your job. Learn all you can while you can. You never know when you're gonna need it.
Right. Well, I think that's a wonderful note to end this interview on. Ron, I want to thank you for your time. Right behind him is a lot of his accolades from winning state in track and in high school basketball, and you can see him. We'll see many of artifacts related to Ron's career at Male High School here at our Kentucky Rivalries exhibit, open through November of this year. Ron, thank you very much for your time.
Well, I thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome, of course.